get going.
Missing one. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, I have to scroll down when there's that many people. But yeah, first off, guys, thanks for coming on. I'm just gonna before we get in too deep, you guys could tell our listeners and followers where they can find your podcast and socials.
Yeah, so you can find us. Our podcast is on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel for that, and then Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok.
Awesome. All right, Nate. I know you told me where you wanted to start with this, obviously, but we're not going to get into the whole off the field cheating thing in a sense of like who's right, who's wrong, what's going on. But what we wanted to ask more is, where's the headspace of the team at with all this going on? Do you guys see it as a distraction or is it more of a motivator? You know what I'm trying to say there? Like, is it kind of been a good thing that this, obviously, not so much a good thing because it has been a little bit of a bad look, but has it been a good motivator for the team or more of where it could be a problem?
I think it's been a motivator for this team. So obviously no one wants media attention to negatively impact their season or anything like that. But now you're getting Ohio State in the mix. A couple days ago, Big Ten staffer, possibly working with 5 other Big Ten teams as well to share a spreadsheet of Michigan signs. Honestly, I don't really trust anything a lot of the media is saying right now. It's getting a little crazy, but especially the early stages of this investigation. But just to answer your question again, we don't want it, but we're still on a mission. We're still on a mission to win a national championship. This has really added fuel to the fire, and you're probably going to see a very pissed off team this week. Yeah, pretty irritated.
And that's feels too with the fans, and they go on the boards a little bit, and it is very much an us against the world. I won't say the Detroit against whoever thing, but the more cliche us against the world mentality that the fan base definitely seems to have, and I'm sure that is carrying over to the team. So if it is not being a distraction, if nobody gets suspended this week, then I'm sure they can use that very much in their favor.
Yeah, I would agree too. It's the culture in the Michigan football program right now for those that follow it closely. The last couple of years has really turned into a player-led culture. And one of the things, regardless of what you think about Jim Harbaugh, whether you love him or hate him, one of the things that he is incredibly good at is absorbing everything and deflecting it from hitting his assistant coaches and hitting his players. So this entire thing, honestly, I feel like it's targeting Jim Harbaugh anyway. I feel like what he's stoked by talking about how it's about time that the players start getting a share of the revenue that's generated to the networks and to the conferences and to the NCAA and the program. I think that was the element that kind of got conferences, networks, and the NCAA to say, I don't necessarily know if we can have a guy like this leading one of our major programs because we don't want that revenue sharing to take place. So I think he's kind of getting targeted anyways. I think that it's more about punishing him than it is about punishing Michigan. But with this team, it's a very veteran-led team. There's a lot of 3rd, 4th, 5th, even a couple 6-year players on this team. So I think what it's doing, there's no way that there's not a little bit of distraction coming from it. But what I think that it's doing is adding a chip on the shoulder of a team that didn't need an extra chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So I guess moving on to the team, I'd like to obviously start with JJ McCarthy because it's his 3rd year in the Big Ten, but Penn State fans, I don't think know a lot about him because in 2021, he didn't play a bunch in that game in Happy Valley. And then last year, Michigan ran so much that he didn't really do anything either. So I know he's obviously taken a huge step forward, especially in the completion percentage and yards per attempt. Those numbers are way up. What's kind of been the big upgrade with him this season, the big growth spurt he's kind of had?
I'll take this one, guys. I think this year he's been more patient. Last year he'll look at one read and then just take off. I think he's matured a very, very lot in the pocket. He uses the pocket very, very well, knowing that his offensive line is going to be there to protect him. Don't get me wrong, he still runs because we need him to run, but that's why his passing numbers been up, because he's like I said, he's been more eyes down the field than running this year. So that's the big difference that I can see. He always had accuracy. He always had moxie is what they call it. So it's nothing new to us, but just the more passing, because like I said, he's mature with his vision.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up to Alec. So I think that really impacted him in the TCU game, in the college football playoff game. So he didn't pass a lot, right? So he did not pass a lot in that game. Everyone keeps hearing about Corum and Edwards running down your throat, basically, and all of our opponents last year, right? But we become a more 50-50 balanced offense, and now he has the reps to pass the ball. He's had his chances. Like we passed, but we did not pass a lot at all last year. So he has improved. I think he was already pretty mature like 2 years ago when he came to Michigan, but honestly, he's really grown up a lot, and not just as a person, but really as a very accurate quarterback. We're looking at maybe a top 3 draft pick within the quarterback position next year, which we have 15 or 20 on this team that are probably going to go pro next year. But I've been impressed from what I've seen from him.
Yeah, definitely.
Better.
Yeah. So the running backs, obviously Blake Corum, another big year, but Penn State and Michigan have a little similarity here where their 2 explosive backs have kind of been a little less explosive this season. Nick Singleton for us, Donovan Edwards for you guys. Has it just been Blake's, kind of shocked some people by coming back? Is it just he's getting the bulk of the workload and, those numbers actually aren't that bad? Or you guys actually kind of see a step back in a sense? Because we honestly, to us, like Singleton looks a little slower, again, tackled by the ankles a lot more. I'm just curious if you guys are kind of seeing those same things with Edwards or if it's just a Corum effect.
Yeah, I'll hop in and get started with this one. I think that there's a lot of factors that are coming into play here. I don't necessarily know if it's a step backwards, and I don't necessarily know if it's a Corum effect, but maybe in a weird way, a happy medium of somewhere in between there, because it's the same thing. The plays where he has a lot of plays where if he can shake one tackle or break one tackle, he's got that 70-yard touchdown run. They're like you guys probably see too, like plays where you're like, how did you go down on that? Like he basically grabbed your shoestring and you went down. And that wasn't happening last year. And another part of that is Michigan's really yet to be in a competitive ball game. So the Blake effect, the 1-2 punch of Corum Edwards has never had to get into a groove, because typically midway through the third quarter, those guys are getting pulled out of the game. Donovan Edwards is in that weird out the game medium. Yeah. He's in that weird happy medium where he's not the primary back, but he's not going to get garbage time touches either, because he's so valuable to the team that they don't want him to get hurt on a meaningless snap. So I think it's a little bit of everything. Like the big plays for him, they're so close, but there's never been a game where he's got the rhythm to have a couple of plays and really start to stack some momentum and confidence built up in it. So yeah, Blake coming back plays into that a little bit, because he's not the primary back, but he's still featured quite a bit. And what's been hidden in all of this is he's been a major factor in our passing game. So you might be looking at the explosives, but he's one of our top receivers too. So he creates mismatches on linebackers quite frequently. It's not uncommon for him and Corum to both be out there. And how, as a defense, how do you match that personnel? Do you treat it like 2 backs out there, or do you treat it like a back and a receiver?
Good point. Yeah.
Tied for third on the team with 24 receptions for 225 yards. Pretty good there for Edwards. But he has like his yards per carry. You think it is just a rhythm thing? I mean, that's way down year over year. He was 7 last year, and he's down at 3.1 this year. Only on 74 carries, I understand. So yeah, maybe it is a rhythm thing, but just like our guys, way down from what he was expected.
And that's the result of the lack of the explosives, right? When you have 50, 60, 70 yard touchdown runs, that really jacks up the yards per carry. So really there's not that.
And
that's
not
the one
playing in the fourth quarter, that kind of hurts him too.
That makes sense.
Not playing the whole
You
game
gotta throw
kind of hurts the
Mullins.
average.
You got to throw Mullins in the mix too, because he's also been getting some touches as well too. I mean, obviously he was out for a little bit, came back against Purdue, and I think had 1 or 2 rushes or something like that. But it's another good, solid, I think, converted linebacker that we have at running back. So similar to Haskins that we had as well too, played linebacker, converted running back. But I mean, we're pretty deep there. We're deep in a lot of positions. We'll see, but I don't think it has anything to do with Edwards. I mean, this team is really unselfish. You can see him on the sidelines during the game. Corum is celebrating with Edwards. Edwards is celebrating with Corum anytime they score. So it's a really I've said this in previous pods, but it's hard to look and pick a player out of like both sides of the ball for Michigan and pick a player that's actually just absolute dominating, spreading themselves from the rest of the pack within that team, right? Within that program, because they all play unselfish football. Everyone is contributing right now as well too.
Yeah. So obviously last year, Michigan over 400 rushing yards against Penn State. Penn State's rush defense this year, I think, is up to number 1 in the country because it's at 60 yards a game. I'm going to just say it. I don't think it's that good. I think that is a college stat thing where quarterback rushing counts towards rushing, and Penn State leads the country in sacks. So I don't think it's, it improved that drastically overnight, but it kind of brings up the point that Penn State does lead the country in sacks. And I just, I know the Michigan offensive line is obviously very good with run blocking, but is the pass pro up there too, in your guys' opinions? Like, how have the tackles held up this year? Because it looks like Penn State's probably going to get Chop Robinson back this week.
So I've been pretty, Derek and Dre, you could speak to this too, but I've been pretty impressed with like the pass blocking. JJ's had a lot of time to either roll out of the pocket and make a play, or even utilize his legs and make a play as well too, middle of the field or outside. But I've been really impressed. It was kind of a slow start, I think, in the first 3 weeks, but they've really gelled together. I mean, you can look at our scores. I know we have like a weaker schedule. We don't make the schedule,
right?
But as far as that goes, they've been pretty consistent with pass protection as well too. I mean, we're talking like maybe 8 or 9 guys deep that are pretty NFL caliber right now. But it's going to be interesting. So you mentioned, I think Penn State's like second in defensive rushing in the country. Michigan is the top defense in the country in passing. Top 2 defenses in yards allowed in the country. And points allowed, top 3 defenses in the country as well too. So we're looking at some very stellar defensive programs here, which I'm really excited to watch as a football fan. And I'm kind of curious who's going to score in the third quarter, because
I got that
there's
too.
only 2 teams. Yep, there it is. Yep. I think we have 114 differential right now. I think we got 114 right now. 114. That's accurate. 114, and Penn State's got 100 or got 97. But who is? Maybe we make a wager off of this, but it's the only 2 teams in the country that have not allowed a point in the third quarter. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that Michigan offensive line holds up.
Yeah, I said really that's either going to be a 50-point quarter or it's going to be a 15-yard quarter. It doesn't feel like there's going to be anything in between with that, the way that looks right now. I did not know that until yesterday, actually, that neither team gave up a point in the third quarter.
The only 2 teams in the country.
Yep, I was about to say the only 2 teams.
Yeah, that's actually insane. Yeah, I actually didn't even realize that. It never dawned on me, but it kind of makes sense because Penn State's defense has kind of given up an early score in a lot of their games and then settled in. And then the fourth quarter, like the backups came in and gave up a score. So in a sense, it does make a little sense for us. I'm sure you guys probably the same way too. So
The same
Got a
way,
lot
for
of
sure.
trash
Yeah,
time
for sure.
this year.
Yeah.
We either benched
Just
our
like
players in the middle of the third quarter or beginning of the fourth.
last
So we haven't really
game,
played
Purdue
at all.
scored a touchdown in like the last 17
that.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be a lot of trash time touchdowns for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll flip to this side because Michigan's defense has been incredibly impressive. And I know people on the outside like to talk about opponents. That's not something we do because last time, Nate, we talked about a team that played nobody and we were super confident. It was the Minnesota game in 2019. And that didn't work out where they were 8-0. Everyone's like, oh, they played, like South Dakota State and stuff. And that didn't seem to matter. It doesn't matter. If you're this dominant this late into a season, who you play, in my opinion, really doesn't matter that much. But less than a touchdown per game for the Michigan defense. So I know you guys kind of brought up the secondary, and from what I've seen, it's drastically improved. Just guys getting older. I noticed like Will Johnson, but what's been the big difference for that unit this year compared to not really at times last year, like outside the TCU game where I know they were given some short fields and stuff. They were a pretty good unit last year, but now kind of grown to number one in the country, taking over Georgia's spot.
I think since from last year to this year, we had a lot of younger guys on our secondary last year. They got a little bit of playing time, but now that they're getting more reps, they're starting to gel with the older players. The older players are leading them and pointing them in the direction that they need to go. Put them in the direction that they need to be in. And it's all coming together. It's their talent, you know what I'm saying? Preparation and talent. I think that's becoming one of the strongest units on our team, our defense. At the beginning of the year, we did a podcast, and that was like, I think all three of our main concerns was our secondary. And from the games that we've been playing, they've been showing up. So it's all about, I guess, development, and they've been developing real good since the last season. Not saying that they wouldn't develop last season, they were just young, if you get what I'm saying. But it's all development and reps, and they've been showing out. I'm so proud of them, to be honest.
So they're seventh in the nation in interceptions with 12. So who do we need to watch out for in that secondary that's getting a lot of those balls?
Mikey Sanders still.
Mike Sanders still.
Yeah,
Mikey
Sanders. I was going to say Mike. So he's played defensive back. Played defensive back in high school. Receiver. I think he switched numbers like 3 times as well too. But he was at number 19 receiver against Notre Dame night game last time we played him a few years ago. Had that impressive catch and run to the touch for an end in the end zone. So played defensive back in high school, receiver at Michigan, and then last year converted back to defensive back, and he's absolutely killed it the last 2 years. Had a really good game against Ohio State. Is having a really good year this year as well too. But we got a lot of younger guys back there yet too. But like Jerry was saying, they've absolutely matured. Absolutely matured and been playing pretty well in their roles as well too. I think we're getting Josh Wallace maybe back this week. I'm not sure, but he's transferred from UMass. But Keon Sab, also a stellar player, and then you can't forget Will Johnson, sophomore. Reminds me somewhat of Charles Woodson play a little bit, but he's an absolute beast. Can never be underestimated. Played as a freshman. He was the one that hit Sean Clifford out of bounds, which, hey, Sean Clifford's a Packer now, pretty close to Lambeau Field. So I'd like to see him play a little bit more, to be honest, but it's probably not going to see that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And, talking about Michigan's defense, though, they embody being a no-star defense, but they're a no-star defense that is full of stars. So if you look at some PFF grades on their defense, 2 of the top 5 highest graded edge defenders are on Michigan. 2 of the top 5 highest graded interior defenders are on Michigan. 2 of the top 5 highest graded linebackers are on Michigan, and 2 of the top 5 highest graded cornerbacks are on Michigan. So I know that's not a perfect system, but it goes beyond stats and goes to who's doing their assignment on each play according to what somebody that doesn't necessarily know what the play call is grading them out on. But that just goes to show that at every level, like Jason was saying, no one player just stands out like I'm a elite superstar, because they all do it together. Another interesting fact.
I think we got to star on defense every game.
We do. I think this holds true. I would have to check my work on it, but I don't think it's changed in the last 2 weeks. I don't think there's a single Michigan defensive lineman that's averaging 30 snaps a game.
Deep there too.
Yeah.
Very deep.
Penn State was there until the Ohio State game. The starters obviously played that, but yeah, they were close to that too. That kind of brings up the pass rush, because if you saw Drew Aller against Ohio State, you'll see that the pass rush gave him a lot of problems. And even though I think he was sacked 4 times, it still bothered him on pretty much every other drop back, and he was highly inaccurate. And then they go to Maryland, and I don't think he got touched outside of a roughing the passer call. And he has probably his best game in college. So, what's the Michigan pass rush like? Is it a unit that can be relentless, or is it kind of been hit or miss, throughout the season?
They can be very aggressive. I know coming out of camp as well too, they were even giving our starters, our offensive line in that front, retrospect, some problems as well too. It's really hard to say by the stats, just because a lot of teams have been throwing the ball out quick.
Right.
Check downs, whatever, but they've been getting rid of the ball as fast as possible. Do we have an Aiden Hutchinson? Do we have David Ajabo? Maybe not yet, but McGregor is coming up to speed. Chris Jenkins as well too. Our linebackers are going. Obviously, we're deep there. We're going to give you some problems as well, but it's going to be interesting to actually see playing a more dominant opponent up there with stats just on paper, to see how we're going to actually react to that. But I think we do have some guys that are going to cause some issues in that area for you guys.
Yeah, I'll second that. If you just look for sacks, it's been hit or miss, but a lot of that is largely opponents' game plans. So, one of the reasons that their secondary is playing so well this year is quarterbacks are just getting rid of the ball quickly. So they're making one read and they're throwing. And so I think more so than sacks, what you're probably going to see is impacted throws, rushed throws. You're going to see maybe you will see the same number of sacks. For some reason, Michigan sacks the crap out of Penn State when they play you guys. Right?
Poor Sean. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I can take a hit though. Give him that.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, he can take a hit.
But another thing Michigan does pretty well is dial up pressure. So you'll see, like we talk about Mike Sainer still being the defender to watch out for takeaways, but that guy can dial up some blitzes too. He's in the quarterback's face quite a bit for a nickel. Look to see Mike Barrett and Junior Colson blitzing on timely called defensive plays. So they'll certainly dial up pressure. I don't know how Penn State's going to approach it. I don't know if they're going to say, let's get the ball out quick, or we're going to stick with our game plan and make Michigan's D-line beat us. But more so than the edges, watch out for the interior.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Because I doubt you guys watched us play Illinois, but Johnny Newton really turned that game upside down at times. Penn State's really solid at the tackles. Obviously, Olu Fashanu, probably a top 5 pick, and Caden Wallace has really improved. But the interior, the interior has been a mess. At times, they've dealt with a lot of injuries. So that's what I was going to ask, because if the D tackles are strong for you guys, it is going to be probably a long day for Penn State's offensive line, because Newton really turned that game upside down. And I know you guys I don't know if there's a defensive tackle of his caliber in the country right now, but I know you guys probably have guys sit like close to that at least.
Yeah, we
well
do.
rested
Kenneth
too.
Grant and
Yeah.
Mason Graham have been going crazy this year on the interior. So
and
we
Chris
have
Jenkins.
some guys on the interior for sure. Yeah, and Chris Jenkins for sure. But
led our team in tackles last year.
I was about to say the guys in the middle are very, very stout. So it's gonna be a battle, man. I'm not just gonna say we gonna do it because you know what I'm saying. I would never disrespect Penn State for the simple fact y'all play us real good, even the outcomes, whatever it be. You know what I'm saying. Y'all still play us. Y'all have us scared. Well, me as a fan, when we play y'all, it just be nightmares until it's over. So I give y'all the utmost respect.
Do you guys think James Franklin is gonna maybe take a rabbit out of his hat and throw a trick plays? I don't know if you watched this against Indiana.
We throw trick plays.
Come on, man. You know that's his thing. You know that's his
thing. He loves
that's his damn style. That's James Franklin style.
Yeah,
that's James Franklin style for sure.
Keandre Lambert-Smith has like 5 attempted passes this year or something like that, or at least 5 plays that were
yeah, they didn't get them off all 5 times. They tried 5 times. Trey Potts has a touchdown. They have 2 non-quarterbacks have thrown passes this year.
Wow. That's surprising.
We'll see. Like, I think last week they opened it up a little bit more than they had previously. I think they were playing offensively, trying to let Allard manage the game a little bit more until towards the end of the Indiana game. And then last week he was considerably better than he had been since West Virginia. So we'll see. Maybe they are going to do more than they have in previous weeks. And, they're going to have to, and they're going to have to be successful with those things as well to have a chance to win.
And I should have asked this earlier, so I know you guys had issues with Corum and Edwards in the second half of the game last year in Ann Arbor. Mm-hmm. Do you guys – we've had a lot of defenses stack the box against us, but knowing we're kind of 50-50 now, we have a little bit of a new identity in the passing game. Do you guys feel like you guys might stack the box, or are you just going to play your game and kind of figure it out from there? Like, what's your strategy on defense, you think?
That's a good one. They trust the corners one-on-one. I know they do. Kalen King, who was the number 1 corner coming in the year, Marvin Harrison humbled him a little bit, I'd say. Obviously, that's going to happen. But the other 2 corners, Daquan Hardy, the slot nickel corner, and then Johnny Dixon, kind of the opposite field corner, they've also played really good this year. I think they would trust the 3 of them out there by themselves and put 8 in there if they had to. I think Penn State's number 1 priority will be to try to stop Michigan's run, because even if it doesn't change the outcome of the game in a sense, I don't think they want to hear that they didn't improve from what happened last year and they got run over for 300 yards again. I know that sounds a little dumb, but I feel like they don't want to make the same mistake twice. Like, they're okay if it comes out and JJ McCarthy comes out and throws for over 300 and a couple touchdowns. They'll say, all right, well, he improved, he got a lot better, but we didn't make the same mistake twice out here. And we learned from our mistake last year and we made McCarthy beat us, and he just did. And I think they don't want to live with a loss, but I think they would live with that outcome more.
Yeah, it would be very poor if they just had it run down their throat for 400 something yards again. And like, we think that the interior of the defense is going to be a little bit better than they were last year. They're bigger. They're more athletic.
They're deeper. They're a little deeper.
Yeah. So getting worn out and going into the second half ought not happen. So they should be able to hold up more than last year, but who the hell knows? Like, every year it's something else. So
yeah, and I just looked it up too. James Madison is actually the number 1 rushing defense. So technically, you guys are still the number 1 rushing defense.
But, yeah.
we throw out FCS opponents here, which actually makes us number 1.
Now if James don't win this game, right? Because I heard you at the beginning of your intro, y'all say this is our 2nd Super Bowl of the season. If James don't win this game, is he gone after this year?
No, I don't know. And we had this discussion after the Ohio State game. We had you could be Georgia and fire Mark Richt and get Kirby Smart, where, Mark Richt was a 9-10 win coach, and all of a sudden Kirby Smart's maybe the best coach in the country. Or you could have what Auburn did and fire Malzone, and now you're like 3 coaches deep since then, and you're a mess. And
yeah.
you have to find are you happy just playing it safe and being a 10-2 team most years? Now 10-2 probably gets you in the playoff going forward most years too, which is something to keep in mind. Or would you take that risk where maybe
especially next year?
Yeah. Would you take that risk where you find someone better and all of a sudden you could compete for the championship maybe every 4 years, every 3 years, or all of a sudden, you're 6-7 win team, kind of what happened to Auburn. So I think it's a fine line. I don't think they've crossed that point yet. I definitely think he'll get the end of Drew Aller's career to, they'll give him that at least. I think maybe this is more of a discussion for next year, especially with a 12-team playoff. If they don't improve
after the career.
Yeah, after Aller probably leaves after next year. I think that is more of when this would become them too.
And it's funny though, because
I was about to say I got a follow up. Like,
okay,
go ahead.
No, sorry. I was going to say, like, everybody talks about the 12-team playoff and how Penn State is the team that's going to benefit from that the most. And like, I understand that you make it in the playoff, but then you lose in the first round. So like, are you really gaining anything? You're playing a game
at home or away.
Home or away stadium is all you get, right? But then you're going to lose. And we have next year USC. Who is it? Ohio State, USC, Wisconsin,
Washington, UCLA.
That's a 5-game stretch. So going 10-2 next year is a stretch anyway. So it's going to be a big challenge. But
I mean, I want it to be a good game because we don't see you guys in the regulation like the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Unless they make
hey, don't be lying. I want to get these boys up out of here.
Yeah, I do too, but I'm just saying, like, unless they make like some 4-team playoff to get to the Big Ten championship, might not see Penn State for a little bit. So
yeah, and we're not too far removed from that type of talk about Jim Harbaugh, because Jim Harbaugh was in that same boat of wins 9-10 games, but loses to ranked teams, and I think that.
Can't get the big thing done.
Yeah. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it's far more common to have a losing record against like top 5 teams than it is to have a winning record against top 5 teams. Like unless you are what Clemson was for like a 6-year stretch, Alabama, Georgia, you're most likely your head coach is going to have a poor record against top 5 teams or top 10 teams. That's what it's going to be. And Michigan and Penn State, I've looked at for the last several years as being similar programs because we're not pulling in the 5 stars like Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia. It's mostly 4 stars and 3 stars and sprinkle in a couple 5 stars here and there. So it's that there is when it comes to some of those major programs on paper, based on the talent that these players had coming out of high school, there's a major discrepancy from a couple of programs and everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it's like anything else. Like some freshness would be cool, and everybody thinks it's going to change the world, like a new paint job or whatever, right? But the chances of landing Saban or Kirby Smart or even Mike Norvell is very, very low. Even you look at Brian Kelly, who goes to LSU, and they took a step back a little bit, right? And it's
as you didn't say Urban Meyer.
No, I swear I thought he was going to say that.
Michigan State, like whatever.
Michigan State, yeah.
Kind of forgot about her. Like, I mean, he is one of those guys, right? But that's a lot of baggage too. So,
a lot of personal baggage.
Yeah. Before we got to any predictions, you guys have any more questions about Penn State you'd like answered or anything?
So, I'm curious because I've watched Penn State kind of intermittently. So Penn State's one of those programs where 2 weeks a year you're probably a second favorite team potentially for Michigan fans. So whenever you play Michigan State, whenever you play Ohio State, we certainly are pulling for you guys to play the best game that you've ever played. with Michigan's schedule up to this point being full of blowouts, are you worried at all about the fact that there might be quite a bit in the arsenal that Michigan's offense hasn't even shown yet, as far as tendencies go, as far as plays go, because they haven't had to, because they've been able to stay pretty vanilla with their run plays and their pass plays, that is going to make Penn State's defense maybe a little surprised to see come game time on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, that obviously I think
Good
is a reality and probably true. You don't get too often 9 games, pretty much almost the middle of November, and you maybe use 50% of your offense. It's just I know, at the end though, it's a tough stretch where you play Penn State, Ohio State 2 out of 3 weeks. So for how good the start is, then the end is a little tough. But I do think that is something to worry about. I'm sure they are a little worried about it. They obviously would have to go back and look at things from last year, the end of Michigan season, and then, the Big Ten championship, although Purdue didn't give much there. And then the playoff game with TCU, obviously new things come about each year, but they'd have to go back and look at maybe more of those tendencies to get a real read. Obviously new things will be brought in, but I do think it is something they have to worry about. And I'm sure they've had to spend more time than usual this week on scouting and film. So that is a leg up for Michigan. I think maybe Penn State gets a leg up in that they've been in a couple dogfights already this year. But at the same time, being able to come out with 5 looks, let's say 5 out of 10 looks you use a game and 5 of them you didn't use yet, that is a huge advantage too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with all that. I have nothing to add.
I feel like they've already played
Definitely agree.
Michigan, because you guys played what, Delaware State?
Delaware, yeah.
Delaware.
Or Delaware, looks exactly like Michigan. Was that like your
Yeah, they have the same helmets.
beat
Yeah.
up dummies,
Mine
or
are
like
blue,
the same
though.
damn thing? Same damn thing, basically. If that's the score, hopefully Michigan has 63 and you guys end up with 7. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So hopefully the roles kind of reverse. But I kind of feel like we played you twice already. It feels weird.
Yeah.
I do have a question. It's pretty simple too. I just want to get your guys' personal opinion, because I know we were kind of talking about it before we even started our pod in August. But so Penn State's been in the Big Ten for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you guys don't have a true rival or a true rivalry. Who do you guys think would be your biggest rival the last 10, 15 years? As fans, who do you see that being? Because I just felt there's not really a true rivalry game that Penn State has.
Nate, you go first.
They tried to make it technically Michigan State, right, with the grand trophy and all that sense. But because of where we come from before the Big Ten, unfortunately, it is teams it's more teams like Pitt and kind of Rutgers, right, and
Notre Dame.
Back in the day, Notre Dame. That's exactly what I was going to say. When I was a kid, Notre Dame,
Michigan too.
Penn State. But now, there isn't one. They try to manufacture them. I mean, personally, I kind of consider Iowa the biggest thing that we have in terms of a competitive rivalry, just because we have tended to play them every year, save last year, going back 10 years. And 2008, 2009, they beat us when we were highly ranked. And then, they kind of owned us for a few years. And now, we've dominated more recently. So for me, it's them. I think that's who I look at most disdain to. And because I've been to Iowa City twice. There are no worse fans than those people.
Really?
Yeah, they're terrible. So
that's surprising.
Yeah. I've been to Ohio State, been to Michigan State, not been to Michigan.
Surprising.
Michigan State people were awesome. It was raining. We're just talking. They're so nice. The Ohio State people were great. Iowa people are the worst.
Minnesota fans are pretty cool. Unless we were actually Badger fans, I feel like it might be more toxic, but they were pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Iowa is probably the right answer right now. And I think it goes beyond football too, because when it comes to wrestling, they're 1 and 2 every year. And I think it kind of builds in where the two fan bases are big rivals. I don't know how much those two outside of wrestling, I don't know how much those two sports departments, every sport sees themselves as that's our rival. I think it's more of a fan generated thing. You could try with Ohio State, but when it's 1-9 in the last 10, it doesn't work. With Michigan a little bit, at least it's gone back and forth a little bit the past 6-7 years or so. So that works. Obviously, Michigan winning back-to-back Big Ten titles and reaching the playoff, both of those years kind of puts them a step above now, where they were kind of in the same weight class for so long, and they were some really, fun games, even going back to like 2013, the 4 overtime game. And then it was 14 or 15. I guess it was 14 when Penn State was offsides on the onside kick. They got up there, there was always like fun, interesting games going on with Michigan and Penn State. So maybe this will be the year that kind of gets back if Penn State could pull it off on Saturday. But I think Iowa is kind of where it's at right now. And I was surprised Nate brought up the land-grant trophy with Michigan State. That has to be in the Big Ten, the only trophy game that wasn't protected as a rival. So that was a little interesting too. So
because it means nothing, right?
It's nothing, but it's just interesting that it was the only trophy game not protected.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Alec, will you be going to the game this weekend?
Yeah, I'll be there. Nate, you're actually coming up from Texas too, right?
Yeah, my son and I are coming up, so we're excited.
Oh yeah,
we'll see.
Okay.
We're not, like we're staying in Baltimore,
you guys, man.
Yeah, are you gonna be there?
Yeah. I'm gonna come.
Yeah,
okay, nice, good. Represent.
Yeah, that's good.
So when we get off here, Alex, slide me your number on Slack, and then okay, we can go from there this weekend.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think we're gonna be up in lot 13. Our liquor expert who's not here is he throws.
This is my first time here, so I have no idea.
All right, I'll help you out then. But our liquor expert who's not here, him and his friends have a pretty significant tailgate up there, so I'll definitely let you know about that.
I do too at Michigan, so I understand.
Yeah,
I understand.
And but before we get to predictions, one thing that I want to say that we all kind of got robbed of this week, and not just all of us here, but all of college football, is this game should be hyped up as a matchup of two of the best teams in college football, as a matchup of two of the best defenses in college football, and it hasn't gotten any of that attention. And
I think it would have been like that if it was a night game.
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know.
I'm glad it's not.
Right.
Yeah, for you guys, that's a little better. Yeah.
But
I'll take a dude game.
Yeah.
I think that I think we're going to be in for a hell of a football game. I think that it's unfortunate that that the spotlight of the football game that's going to take place got taken away through all of this, because it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, let's hope so. I spent a shitload of money on tickets.
Yeah, so did I in Columbus, and that didn't do anything.
Hey, I'm about to say, I'm with you, Nate. I'm with you. Real.
Trent went to Columbus last year. I mean, it worked out for you, dude.
Yeah, I went to Columbus. Yeah, I definitely went to Columbus.
Dre, are you?
This is my. Go ahead.
Are you driving? Or are you flying into? You're not flying into State College, are you?
I'm driving in. It's like 6 hours away from me, and I get off work Friday night at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. As soon as I get off, I'm gonna just shoot up there. We'll shoot down there.
Damn. Nate, I was gonna say the only people who could afford to fly into State College were all those freaking Auburn people. All that, because my place when I was at Penn State was
Penn State is charging a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, when I was at Penn State, that was my senior year that year, and my house was over the flight path of the State College Airport, and every 3 minutes was a private jet leaving for Auburn all Sunday morning. Yeah, like there was at least 30, 40 of them. Like, it was ridiculous the amount of people that actually flew in from there.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have a private jet?
Not yet. No.
You can pick Derek and I up, Green Bay.
Eventually.
I was about to say, let me borrow it.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I guess we'll get into these predictions. I'm going to go first and get this out of the way. But, I think last week made a lot of people feel good about Penn State. I personally cannot get the Ohio State game out of my head. Maybe it's because I was there. But I see a really good defense going up against Penn State, and they kind of rolled over in a sense. And I'm a little worried about that this year. Obviously, it's at Penn State, and Penn State plays Michigan a whole lot better than they play them in Ann Arbor. That is for sure. They don't lose by 25-28 every year like they do up there. So I think it'll be good, a close, good game, but I'm going to lean Michigan. I'm like 21-14 in that range. I think it's going to be a slugfest for most of the game.
You guys go. I'll go last.
That's right. All right. Derek, you go. I think I'm going to be conservative too, but Derek, you go.
Since it's, yeah, so I'm about to say. I'm about to say, you can go ahead, Derek.
All right, so
since it's not a night game, my bad. Go ahead.
I think that I think it is going to be a slugfest, and I think there's going to be few possessions in this game. I think this is going to be a game where each offense might move the ball, get a couple first downs, punt, but doing that's going to suck 5 minutes off the clock every time. So I think it's going to be a low possession game. I think that Michigan has an advantage at a lot of matchups. I'm biased in this, but I'm more sold on JJ McCarthy than I am Drew Aller at this point, solely because of what I saw him do in the Ohio State game, which, by the way, I think would have been a completely different result if there wasn't a holding call on that defensive touchdown that you guys scored. But I think it's going to come down to what defense can make a couple big plays, can get a couple big sacks or get a couple takeaways. But I just think Michigan this year, I think, is special. And with this extra chip on their shoulder now, I think that they're going to be ready to come in and steal some of the Penn State energy in that stadium. And they're going to try and do it early. I think it's going to end up being 24-13.
I think that's about what it was in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, which was the last noon game at Beaver Stadium that we played. Yeah. It was Saquon's freshman year.
Dre, what about you?
All right, my turn. I'm gonna go. I ain't gonna go with all theatrics, man. It's Michigan versus everybody with me. I don't care if we was underdogs. I'm still gonna pick us, but I think the score is gonna be real. It's gonna be real close. So I'm gonna go say 27-21 Michigan.
Yeah, so JJ, he actually likes away games. He actually likes the atmosphere of it and taking that energy away that Derek kind of talked about. I don't think we're going to see it consistently, but yeah, I think our position groups probably are a little bit better, but I still think we're going to see a hell of a football game. I'm going to go 28 Michigan, 17 Penn State. That's what I'm going with. It's going to be interesting, though.
Yeah. All right, Nate.
All right. I have zero faith whatsoever, and I think we get our asses kicked. I'll back off from what I said on Twitter. I'm going to say.
I know.
I'm going to say 28.
You're still making the trip.
Yeah, there's other things to do up there for this weekend. I say, I think we kind of get killed. I think it's going to be 28.
Hey, can I? How do y'all feel this way? And y'all got a good team just like us. How do y'all feel this way? Y'all should at least
I don't know, man.
But y'all think we just gonna come in there and roll?
We get PTSD a lot. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. I have flashbacks of Drew Aller throwing, jumping in Ohio State and not setting his feet and all that shit. And
y'all giving me confidence. I was scared.
But Dre, look, we're gonna hang out there and we're gonna have a lot of fun, and that's all. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. A couple shots, a lot of banter back and forth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm excited, man. I never been to Penn State, so
that'll be fun.
So I'm actually excited. Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you guys are going. Actually,
yeah.
I get to meet, what I'm saying, some of our Big Banner team.
All right, Nate. What did Nelly say earlier this week? I think I have to put it into this podcast. What his prediction was?
I don't know. He said we're gonna win.
Yeah, obviously, but you know him. He was like, it was a ridiculous score. Obviously,
see, that's what I'm talking about. A little faith.
What do you say? Like he said, like 28-20 though. I think it wasn't that bad. Yeah. All right. I just want to give him a shout out because I know he's busy with school. So I wanted to.
And what was your prediction, Nate? What was your score?
28-3. I say we score a field goal late in the game just to not be shut out.
Oh, so 28-3.
28-3.
Yeah, like 2016.
What?
Yeah.
What? Okay. Hey.
Are you guys just trying to humble yourselves and make yourselves feel better so you guys are surprised, or are you just? Is this the strategy?
It's in between. It's in between.
Yeah, it's in like
happily
everybody picked us to beat Ohio State, ourselves included, and you get let down. So
we'd rather be happily surprised. Yeah, we'd rather be happily surprised is how we are right now.
We got a 3-hour drive each way that morning and evening, so yeah, I'd rather not be.
Yeah, that is a better way to look at it. But that's gonna do it for this one from us. So a big thank you to you guys for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
It was good to do.
Yeah, it was. And you'll hear from Nate and I early next week, whatever the outcome is of this game, because last year when Penn State lost to Michigan, it was our most viewed video with like 3,000 views. So we're definitely gonna do that again. So
it's a good strategy, Alec. Love it.
It is. So we'll see you guys next week.